Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I want to talk to you guys about this pretty interesting thing involving Snoke and the High Republic, and some possible little Easter egg connections going on here, and maybe more, who knows. But first, it is January 1st, it is 2021, Happy New Year everybody. Yeah, 2020's over. I know the world's not going to go back to normal right now, but you know, 2020 is over, so let's just celebrate that, like, at least, right? Anyways, okay, so here's what we have going on here. Star Wars reveals Snoke's surprising connection to the Old Republic. Okay, and basically what we have here is it looks like the High Republic will have an intriguing connection to the sequel trilogy of the Skywalker saga. Charles Soule, the author of The Light of the Jedi, confirms in a tweet that the Amaxine station from the High Republic Into the Dark was featured in his Rise of Kylo Ren miniseries. And here is an image of the station right here. So to break this all down, basically what we have is the High Republic, if you didn't know, is a publishing initiative that's actually going to be starting this month. And that means novels, junior novels, and comic books are all going to be coming out and sort of tied together into these interconnected stories in this era set 200 years before The Phantom Menace. And there's also going to be a TV show called The Acolyte, which is going to be set towards the end of the High Republic, which I think means about 50 years before The Phantom Menace. So very exciting stuff. It's all coming out and it's gotten good reviews, so a lot of people are excited for the High Republic to start. But what this means, and by the way, this little link right here to this tweet, it looks like it's been deleted, or at least it's not leading anywhere. So Charles Soule might have said this and then deleted that tweet because maybe he wasn't supposed to say it. But he said the Amaxine station from the High Republic Into the Dark was featured in his Rise of Kylo Ren miniseries. Now, if you don't know what that miniseries was, it was a 4-issue comic series essentially showing Ben Solo's transformation into Kylo Ren. It starts the night of the destruction of the Jedi Temple, and it leads all the way to him, cracking his lightsaber crystal, turning it red, and taking the name Kylo Ren. Now, essentially what happens with this station here in that comic is that immediately after destroying the Jedi Temple, he runs to this place and he finds Snoke there. In fact, I pulled up an image here. So this is the inside of that station, and basically Snoke is just chilling in this like greenhouse looking space station, and they don't explain it. They don't go into what this place is and why Snoke is dressed like that and how long he's been there. Ben Solo in the comic already seems to know who he is, and they've met before, so there's still a lot of unanswered questions on that whole side of things. But in any case, Charles Soule is saying that this space station is going to be in a High Republic novel called Into the Dark. Now, if we could go look into the Dark, here's the summary of what we have, but that's the cover, by the way. Padawan Reath Silas is being sent from the cosmopolitan galactic capital of Coruscant to the underdeveloped frontier, and he couldn't be less happy about it. He'd rather stay at the Jedi Temple studying the archives, but when the ship he's traveling on is knocked out of hyperspace in a galactic-wide disaster, Reath finds himself at the center of the action. The Jedi and their traveling companions find refuge on what appears to be an abandoned space station. But then strange things start happening, leading the Jedi to investigate the truth behind the mysterious station, a truth that could end in tragedy. And that's the end of the summary. So, based on what Charles Soule said, we can assume that this abandoned space station where strange things are happening is indeed going to be this Amaxine station. This one right here that Snoke lives in later, which, very, very strange, very interesting. And look, obviously it can be just that was just a cute little Easter egg that it just happens to, it's not really anything, it's just where he lives later. But I doubt it. I think that there's gonna be much more to this. So let's start off this. What are the Amaxine warriors? So this Amaxine station, as he call it, is in reference to these Amaxine warriors, and there's not a whole lot known about them. They were really only in one novel in Star Wars Bloodlines, which that is a novel that takes place about 6 years before The Force Awakens, and it focuses on Princess Leia and her, essentially her viewpoints in regards to the New Republic. And it's a very political oriented book. And she does this big investigation into this military group that's being trained in secret, and they even end up bombing the Senate building at one point in the book, called the Amaxine Warriors. And this group is being trained, and she tries to infiltrate their whole training facility and figure out what's going on and who's behind all this. And it does turn out to be this ex-imperial lady who's like in charge of this group, and they're all like teenagers who are being trained to be these warriors and use all these imperial weapons. But before Leia can find out anything really about them, their base gets destroyed. And so she tries to convince the Republic to, like, no, we need to look into this. Who was behind this group? Where were they getting all these ships? Where were they getting all this stuff? And the Republic wants nothing to do with it. Now, of course, it later turns out, because we know, it eventually turns out that the First Order was the ones who were funding this group of Amaxine warriors. And that's basically where the book leaves off. Leia goes to form the Resistance because she's like, look, I'll do it myself. I'll figure out what's happening, because the Republic is kind of bullshit, and that's basically what happens in the book. Now, the Amaxine Warriors, the story that Leia knows from her childhood is that the Amaxine Warriors were like this ancient group of warriors that were like resistant to the old Republic, like a long time ago, and then they disappeared. And so it's actually never made entirely clear if this new group who's calling themselves that have any connection at all to that ancient group of warriors, or if they just took the name. But essentially what they are in regards to Snoke and First Order, they're essentially just like a prelude group. They're kind of hired by the First Order, and they were going to be like, they were going to be like a specialty team, I guess, of a little military group, and then it just ended up not working out. So that's all we really know about these people. But if this is an Amaxine station, and it's the same station that they're going to in the High Republic, and it's the same station that Snoke later lives in, that's very, very interesting. The other thing I couldn't help but notice is that the Amaxine warriors sound an awful lot like the other bad guys from the High Republic we already know are gonna be there, the Nil. The Nil are brutal, savage marauders based in the Outer Rim, says Charles Soule, writer of the novel The Light of the Jedi. They're the stuff of nightmares, able to appear almost anywhere, almost at will. They use bizarre, intimidating tactics, chemical weapons, poison, anything that might kill you, they'll use. I don't know if they actually have an image of the Nil. Yeah, there you do. Okay, so there's one of the Nil. They're just like this warrior race. And the Amaxine warriors, instead of using currency, the Amaxine warriors traded weapons for goods and services. And, it's just another warrior race in the same era as these Nil things. I don't know. I feel like there's going to end up being a connection between the Nil and the Amaxine warriors and this Amaxine station. And it's all going to be happening inside of this Into the Dark book. Now, what does this all have to do with Snoke? Other than the fact that Snoke lived there, right? Later on. Well, that's where it gets even more interesting. So we know that Snoke, of course, ended up being just a clone type thing, a pickle in a jar. He's being called basically a genetic creation. I'm forgetting the term that they use in Star Wars, but essentially he's just a created being. He's not a clone of any one thing necessarily, or at least that's like the narrative right now, is that he's not like a clone of anyone. A strand cast, that's the name, that's what they use. He's a strand cast. But basically he's just like this mutated, crazy looking genetic being, and we potentially got a glimpse of his early stages in The Mandalorian, or at the very least the experiments that will one day become a Snoke, maybe. And that's really all we know about Snoke, is that he was just this guy who was made by Palpatine, sent out there to like be a placeholder, effectively, like, hey, you're gonna go out there, rule the First Order, train Kylo Ren, eventually he's gonna kill you, and then I'll still be around, you know, because I'm Palpatine, I don't want to, I don't know, whatever the plan was. But that's really all we know about Snoke. Now, I've always had this theory, though, this idea, is that what if the Snoke that we saw in the movies and in The Last Jedi, and what if those tanks full of Snokes that we saw in The Rise of Skywalker, what if that was not the first Snoke? I mean, it's possible, right? If they have all these backup copies of Snoke already in those tanks, then I don't see why it's impossible that, like, hey, what if there's been a bunch of Snokes? Like, they all have gotten killed off one way or another, and then they just take another one out of the tank, and the Snoke's around again. There's another Snoke. I've always thought that would be an interesting idea. And the other thing is, what if Snoke really is a clone of something that was alive a long time ago? What if Palpatine was trying to bring something back that was alive back then? Because if we're talking about the High Republic, I mean, this is 200 years before the Phantom Menace, so it's possible that something was on this station, because they talk about like strange events are going to happen on this space station. It seems possible to me that Snoke is somehow involved here, and this is like the original Snoke, and then the one we saw in the movies is like a different Snoke, one that was cloned, one that they just took out of a tank. You know, something like that I think would actually be really interesting. Obviously, that's a lot of speculation on my part. It's possible that, you know, this book comes out, Snoke is not mentioned at all. That's very possible. But I do find it fascinating that they're going to the same exact space station, and I don't feel like they would do that for no reason. Very, very interesting. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. What's going on with this space station? Is this where Snoke, like the original Snoke, came from? Is this just like Snoke's like holiday house that he has somewhere? Like, what is this? And what's gonna happen in this book with these strange occurrences on this space station? Very, very compelling, actually. I'm fascinated to find out what is gonna happen next. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Yeah, Snoke, High Republic, greenhouse station. Very, very weird. All right, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.